Hi folks, you're with Tassus today at your Pushmill, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about, does history repeat itself? Is it exact? Is it a close approximation? Is it really not at all? Is that just an illusion or a fantasy we have about history repeating itself? There have been throughout history quite a few phrases that come to mind, that I've put them in the description there. One of my favourites is, what we learn from history is that we learn nothing from history. As I perceive it, at least, humans keep on making the same mistakes again and again. Now, they may not be exactly in every detail, but certainly close, or at least that's my view. And that you can have other phrases like Omar Khayyam, that Persian philosopher from I think the 12th century, talking about, once something's happened, you can't go back to change it. Therefore, you must learn from that lesson. That's the quote: "The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on. Nor all thy piety, nor all thy wit can lure it back to cancel half a line, or all thy tears wash away one word of it." That's, by the way, the translation done by the Victorian Persian student, or studied Persian intently, Fitzgerald, and there's some argument that he actually put in some of his own poetic license to that. But nonetheless, I don't think anyone disputes the general point there. But does history repeat itself? I think it does, because humans, the human condition is to make the same mistakes. There are certain things that for example, a mathematical formula, or 1 + 1 = 2, and things like that. Those things can be codified and written up, and then the next generation, or those who come afterwards, can stand on the shoulders of those who've done that heavy lifting, and guys like Archimedes or Pythagoras or Isaac Newton and so on. So the reason we can build bridges today is the mathematics and the engineering and so on that's been done previously on that. So that can be built on. But when it comes to the human condition, the aspirational human condition, then that's much harder it can be done, but it can't be expressed with the precision of mathematics. Therefore, in every generation tends to make the mistakes that have been made in the past generation, and not to learn from them. An obvious example would be teenagers falling in love. Say that the emotion and the angst of it all was happening 2,000, 3,000 years ago, and is happening today. The things that Roman citizens were concerned about, such as property developers bribing the councillors, and gangsters are bribing or intimidating judges, and so on. These things are happening today, and concern citizens today, as they did 2,000 and 2,500 years ago, even down to petty jealousies and spite. There's a Persian, or I think it might have been a Mesopotamian tablet from 4,000 odd years ago that was dug up, where a wife is complaining that the neighbour has remodeled and renovated her house, and is down at the market boasting about how good her house is and how it's better than everyone else's. And this particular woman is incensed by it, so she puts the heavies on her husband to send her money so she can do a remodeling and a renovation on her house that's even bigger and grander than that woman's, just because she wants to shut her up and stop her from boasting and making out she's big time, and so on. So these human conditions, and if we look at thousands of years ago, when the 7 sort of deadly sins of spite, jealousy, and gluttony, and so on, and indeed the 10 Commandments, you can see the things that they were trying to address, that the crimes that they were trying to, or the human failings they were trying to overcome. These human failings have remained constant throughout history, throughout all the thousands of years. So on that basis, history, I believe, does repeat itself. And we can look at times of revolution, and where strong men come forward to sort of take charge and give give order to the crumbling society or the frightened people and so on. So an example of that would be say in Rome in around just 105, 106 BC, somewhere around there. There was major movements of Central and Eastern European, Slavic and Germanic type tribes, and they were coming into northern Italy, and the Romans sent a couple of armies up to evict them, and these armies were defeated with much slaughter. And so this was a new experience for the Romans. They hadn't had a major military defeat for something like 100 years or longer. So this was quite a shock. And this army of, I think the total amount of people was somewhere around 500,000 plus. These were roaming around. So they came in northern Italy, then they went into southeastern, what today is southeastern France. And so the Romans were casting around for someone to come forward. And I think those times push certain people forward, people that are prepared to take the responsibility and to take the risks. And that's a certain sort of person that's prepared to do that. If you look at, say, most politicians today, there'd be very few prepared to take any sort of risk. And certainly very few that are prepared to put themselves out there and to make people's lives better and so on. Now, Gaius Marius was the guy, and he was already a political heavyweight in the Roman scene, but he took on the role of general and went up with an army that was quite seriously outnumbered by these guys, and he delivered a crushing defeat to them, and then defeated them again and evicted them from the area, so they were no longer a threat to Rome. Now, a very grateful sort of populace gave this Gaius Marius great following, and it was the beginning of the disintegration of the Roman Republic. And Gaius Marius came forward, and then there was Cornelius Sulla, and these guys really set themselves up as quasi-dictators, and then this led to a sequence of events that produced Julius Caesar, and then Augustus Caesar, and Mark Antony, and others that were vying for control. And that was then the end of the Republic as it was known, and then in came the Principate or the period of emperorship, if you like, starting in I think it was 31 BC with Augustus, who was Julius Caesar's adopted son. Now, excuse me, this idea of politicians coming forward and becoming sort of combined generals and emperors or controlling politicians with control, generalissimos in effect. That we saw this again throughout history, time and time again. Napoleon Bonaparte coming along after the French Revolution. The French Revolution had to come first before Bonaparte could appear. There had to be that instability, that situation where everything was in play, everything was in flux. And that's when the people that think they're in control lose control. They think they've got control and they can pull all the strings, but they just go that one step too far. And the dam breaks, and suddenly it's all over the place. They've lost control. No one has control. Things are chaotic, and the cards are going to fall where they may. And then that situation is the one that creates, the strong man that comes forward and really brings all the power into themselves, or their own office and their own group of advisors and hangers-on and so on. Napoleon did some quite good things, but really he did it over the deaths of more than 2 million Frenchmen, given the 20 years or so of war. Now he was quite a gifted general. He certainly was able to deliver victory after victory, and without delivering those victories, he couldn't have he couldn't have maintained the that French Empire for the time that he did. So does history repeat itself? My view is it does, and I don't think we learn from the lessons or learn the lessons from the past, and I think politicians today, certainly in the West, and the globalist goons that control them and direct them and order them about and give them their instructions, I don't think they have been spending their time reading their history and understanding the lessons of the past and the mistakes of the past and the errors of the past and the consequences of actions of the past. So I think history does repeat itself, perhaps not exactly, but certainly close enough. But the issue isn't so much does history exactly repeat itself, whether it does or not, but rather that we learn the lessons of the past. These people made mistakes in the past, whether it be the Julius Caesars or whatever. They've made mistakes in the past, also did things, did things right, or they were successful in their endeavors or pursuits. So we can learn from those. But more importantly is that we see, once there's a general path that's gone down, and where a series of objectives are pursued, then we know from that it's going to produce a series of mistakes and a series of uncertainties, and these will collide with various other issues to create uncertain outcomes. And usually, as with most sort of things, the people at the bottom suffer the most horribly, and that'll happen again. And I think we're at one of those inflection points of history now where the globalists are so determined to get their project implemented, they're prepared to accept any collateral damage. And I think they'll keep on going till the dam breaks, and then chaos ensues. And then it's anyone's guess where things are going to go. The cards will fall where they may, but the possibility of a strong man coming forward is certainly a very major likelihood. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.